Okay, part 2, I'm going to spend some time with a particular data type which we did not discuss as part of the series. So we'll do that, and then we'll look at data frames. Okay. So date time in pandas. Okay. We already did date time in base Python. So there is a date time library, and we use that library to bring in some functions like date time function and time function and temp delta function and so on. Okay. Now pandas has its own date time functions, and they are more efficient for us to use in pandas. So that's what I'm going to go over now. And when you're using a pandas series or pandas data frame, you should use the pandas date time functions, not the other one. Okay. So it comes part of pandas. So first thing to do is, of course, as always, run the libraries. Make sure that NumPy and pandas are available. Okay. So now the date time function in pandas is timestamp. Okay. So it is a pandas function, so you should start with pd dot timestamp. Okay. It is preferred when using pandas. Okay. Pandas replacement for Python date time object. So it creates a timestamp object. Okay. The timestamp input is date time, like it can be string, it can be integer, it can be floating point, and it does some intelligent parsing. Okay. If it can figure out what kind of time that you have, what kind of date you have, it's going to, you don't have to provide the format most of the times. Of course, you have to make sure that it is parsing it correctly. Okay. And if you have coded the date time in a really strange format, then you have to specify the format. Okay. So format is still there, but most often you don't have to use it because pandas timestamp is going to automatically figure it out. It's intelligent parsing. So here you see an example, pd.timestamp. So I have the date here as a string, and it correctly identifies this as, this is the year, this is the month, and day of the month, and then the time. So now I have another date in a different format. So I have January 15, comma, space 2020, and I don't have any format here. Okay. In date time, we had to give a format of how the date time object is set up. So now it automatically figures out, okay, so this must be the month, this must be the day of the month, and this must be the year. So here is another format, okay, another string. It automatically figures it out. So when you just give a 4-digit number, it automatically thinks, okay, this is the year, so you're not giving me anything else, so I'm going to use January 1st, 0000. Okay. So pd.timestamp function is very useful, and it parses time string nicely. Okay. And again, like in date time, it has a now function or now method. So pd.timestamp.now will give you the current time. So last time I ran it, it was yesterday at afternoon 5 o'clock. So now it's 10:20, okay, 1:54, right? So that's going to be the current time, and you can capture it in a variable and use it. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? Okay. There are some properties of timestamp like what we had in date time object. Okay. So you have year, month, day, quarter, hour, minute. These are all properties. Okay, so you don't have to have parentheses, but if you want the day name and the month name, then you have to use parentheses. So, for example, here, okay, the second, there is no second here, so it's going to assume that it is 0. Okay. Now, so a date is that 9/1. So a date, and if I say month, it's going to give me the month. So I say year is going to give me year. Okay. Now, okay, so let's remember this is a variable name. I just made it up, so it can be anything. So now if I use month name, okay, so it's going to give me month name. Okay. Now, if, and there are lots of functions like this. Okay, I'm just giving you a taste of it. Okay, so if you use day name, okay, so day name and month name should have the parentheses at the end. Okay. Now time delta, again, the same like before, okay, but this is now pandas time delta. So PD dot, okay, time delta with an uppercase T, and then you specify the unit, the value, and then the unit for that value. So here are possible values. So D will be days. Okay. Now if you use W, it will be weeks, so 7 days. And I did try all of this. Let's see, what is T? T is time, okay, minutes. And what about L? So L is kind of, so hour, minute, second, supposed to be nanoseconds or something. I don't know what. The H is for hours. So what do you use time delta for? So time delta, once you specify a time delta and capture it in a variable, then you can divide that variable into a time interval and convert it. So you have a time interval like a now date minus, say, higher date. Okay, so now you have a time interval. Now you want to know how many days the person has worked, then you divide by a time delta of days. You want to know how many weeks the person has been with us, so create a time delta of weeks and divide by that. So you can take a time interval and convert it into any units that you want using the time delta object. Okay, so that's what time delta is used for. Okay, we did this before in date time. Okay, it's available in pandas as well. Okay, so that couple of examples here. So we have a date, so 2/22/2012. Okay, again, we don't have to give a format because this is pretty well understood date. So it's going to automatically parse correctly, and then I have a current time, so pd.timestamp now, so that is right now, and then I find the difference. So now d now minus d now, that's the time interval between those two dates. So that date and the current date. Okay. Now I want to know how many years have passed by between then and now. Okay, so I need to take this d now minus d1 and divide by time delta, that is an hourly, I'm sorry, yearly time delta. So 1 year, there is no time delta code for year, okay, because kind of what an year is supposed to be kind of ambiguous, because from one year to another year it's going to be different. So the approximate number on the average is this. You can Google this, how many days to a year, you'll find it. So this is an approximation. So you take a time delta of number of days and multiply by that number that you find from Google, right? So that's going to be days per year, and you divide that into the difference, and then I have done the NumPy function floor, so it just drops off the decimal part and gives you how many years have passed by. Okay, so that's that. Okay, any questions? So d now minus d1 is the time interval, and then you're dividing by days per year, which is a time delta, and that will give you the interval converted into the units that's in time delta. Okay.